The Christmas Pig, written by J.K. Rowling, illustrated by Jim Field. Chapter 21, Disposable. Oh no, the shame of it, cried Comb. We're disposable. Not complaining, are you? Said Scissors in a menacing voice. Because at least you're getting a roof over your head. There's plenty that don't. If you'd rather be surplus, it could be arranged. No, whispered Comb, terrified. I wouldn't rather be surplus. Stop your whining then, snapped Scissors. The town they'd just entered was comprised of low wooden buildings, all of which looked drafty and flimsy. A few feeble lanterns lit the snowy streets. Scissors led the group to a hitching post, where he dismounted, tied up all their mounts, and set the battery, the comb, the ruler, and the chopsticks free, said a cheery voice behind them, and everybody turned around to see a pair of spectacles bouncing out of a building with swing doors that was labeled Saloon. Spectacles was wearing a black Stetson with an L on it and looked far friendlier than any lost adjuster they'd met so far. Good to see you, friends, he cried, beaming, his nose pads flapping like a big mustache. I'm Sheriff Specs. Say Scissors. We heard a rumor that the klaxon went off in Mislade an hour ago. Is it true? It's true, all right, said Scissors. Some things where it shouldn't be. Bless my hinges. That'll mean trouble, said Specs anxiously. He pulled the ragged duster out of thin air, wiped his lenses, then made it magically disappear again while peering more closely at the group. Alrighty, I'll take these folks inside and give them the introduction. Have a shot of lubricant before you head off, Scissors? No time, said Scissors. But you might freeze up, riding back in these conditions. You've got a point, said Scissors, now looking toward the saloon. And you've got too, said the sheriff, roaring heartily at his own joke. Get it? Get it? He looked hopefully around at the group. Nobody laughed. Comb sniffed. Follow me then, folks, said Specs, and he led the way into the saloon. Scissors followed, right behind Jack. It made the back of Jack's neck freckle to hear his sharp points hitting the ground. The bar was lit by a single flickering oil lamp. Moth-eaten velvet curtains hung at the windows, and the wooden floorboards were stained. An old gardening glove was playing a mournful tune on a toy piano in the corner. In the ceiling was another finding hole, and right below it, taking up 2 seats, was an old tin lunchbox. That there's Fingers at the piano, said Specs. In Fingers, the glove waved her thumb and went back to playing her set tune. And that there's Lunchy sitting neath the finding hole. The lunchbox didn't say anything, but kept staring up at the dark hole in the ceiling, as though she could will a beam of golden light to appear and take her back to the land of the living. Jack couldn't blame her for wanting to leave this gloomy room. He looked around to see whether DP was sitting in one of the shadowy corners, but he wasn't there. Perhaps Jack thought he was asleep in one of the ramshackle houses they'd passed outside. He was wondering how soon he'd be able to sneak out to look, when Specs said, Alrighty then, why don't we all draw up a chair and get cozy? They all sat down. The draft coming through the swing doors was icy cold, and Jack was now doing his best not to shiver. He wished he'd done what the Christmas Pig had suggested back in his bedroom, and bought a hoodie and some shoes, although he wasn't going to tell the pig that. So welcome to Disposable, said the sheriff. We ain't got much in this town, but what we've got, we share. Now I understand. He glanced at the sniffing comb. Some of you ain't too happy to be here. How could anything be happy to find themselves indisposable? Said Comb, breaking into sobs. It means our owners don't care about us. The chopsticks drooped a little at that. Things in the land of the lost seemed to become extra brandy, quite apart from having mouth and eyes and arms, and the panda eraser sighed. Now that's not true, sir, said Specs firmly. If nobody cared about you, you'd have been shoved down the waste chute and mislaid. I thought I was special to him, sobbed Comb, ignoring Specs and pulling a single black hair out from between his teeth. We've been together for years. I thought he cared. Come on now, friend, buck up, said the sheriff gently. We cheap old things know how it is. Nobody's heart broke when we disappeared. We're easy to replace, but that doesn't make us worthless. No siree, continued Specs. There's still hope, lots of it. Why, any of you might be found at any moment. I've never even been used, said Battery, looking glum. You'd think I'd be worth more to the family than this. It's Christmas, after all. I thought I'd have a job for life inside the little girl's new remote-controlled car. Well, now you know, Battery, wailed Comb. You're worthless to them. We're all worthless. What you need is a good night's sleep, sir, said the sheriff, getting back onto his arms and inviting Comb to stand up too. Everything will seem better after you've rested. You hurry along to room number 16 now. Up the stairs, first on the right. Off you go, there's a good fellow. Comb looked as though he'd like to argue, but at the moment, a horrible scream echoed down the street outside. Fingers, the gardening glove, stopped playing the piano. Specs, scissors, and even Lunchy turned sharply in the direction of the waste. What was that? Squealed Comb. What happens on the waste is best ignored, said Scissors, who was now drinking his glass of lubricant beside the bar. Just do as you're told, and if you're lucky, you'll never find out what causes the screams